Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing how to replace the engine in your snowblower. And today I'll be doing this on an MTD Mastercraft snowblower. It's got a Tecumseh engine on it, which are still quite popular on older machines. Now your machine may look differently, but it's going to be the same principle when it comes to replacing the engine. First of all, if you have a lot of fuel in your gas tank, you can remove some of it just so that it doesn't spill when the blower's upright. And to get right into the job today, the first thing I'm going to do is remove the belt cover. There are two bolts holding it. There's one down here at the bottom, and there's another bolt at the bottom over there. And you'll need a 3/8 socket to remove this bolt. And now you can easily remove the belt cover. So it's not a bad idea at this point to remove the spark plug boot for safety reasons. That's just in case you spin the engine over to remove the auger belts. In this case here, the engine is seized, so I won't be spinning it over. And now remove the auger belt or the auger belts depending on your machine. This one has two for the auger. Some machines will only have one. Now to remove the drive belt, pull the idler pulley here. It's spring loaded. Get the belt off the pulley. And now you want to look around the machine, and if you have any wires that are connected to the engine from the body, just disconnect them. What I've got here is a connector for the light on the blower, so I will need to disconnect that. And now at this point, I've done a check around the engine, and there is absolutely nothing left that is hooking up this engine to the body, except the 4 bolts underneath. At this point, it's much easier to remove the engine if you have it standing upright like this. And that's why it's good to make sure you don't have too much fuel in the fuel tank or that the oil is leaking, and make sure both caps are tight. Like I mentioned previously, you can remove the fuel from your fuel tank before you do this. Now at this point here, I'm going to remove the belly pan, and I'm using a 1/4 inch impact with a 3/8 socket. Once you have the belly pan off, you want to locate the 4 bolts that are holding your engine to the body. In this case, the bolts are here, one's down there, and it's the same on that side. And to remove these bolts, I'm using my 3/8 impact with a 1/2 inch socket and extension. I'm going to start by removing the bottom bolt here. Now many of you guys don't have impacts like this where you can use a ratchet and an extension and a 1/2 inch socket. Now at this point here, I've left one bolt on there. That's just so that I can slowly remove it and grab the engine on the other side with my hand. It's not a big deal if this engine falls on the floor, but I do want to catch it so nothing breaks off of it. And the only bolt left to remove is the top right bolt there. So I'm going to hold the engine with one hand. Then I'm just going to bring the snowblower down. And now you can remove the engine. And now you're left with your snowblower frame. And now it's a good time to clean the excess oil there. This one was dripping oil and going on the floor. And by the way, these are the 4 holes here that you put the bolts back in. Now what apparently happened to this engine here was run without any oil in it. So the engine just completely seized, and I happen to have a lot of these engines that I've saved from scrapped snowblowers, so I'm just going to swap it out with an identical engine. It's going to be easy. When you do an engine swap, you want to make sure you have the same pulleys and shaft. So it makes it a lot easier if you get the same engine with the exact same pulleys and shaft size. So when you do go shopping for an engine, take your pulleys off first to make sure you get the right size. Sometimes it's bigger here, but smaller where the pulleys are. And this small pulley here drives the snowblower. It's basically powered from the camshaft. This is the actual crankshaft of the engine. So again, if you get the identical engine to put back in your machine, it makes your job a lot easier. Now if you run across a snag where you need to have a 1-inch shaft on your snowblower, but the engine you're getting has a 3/4 inch shaft or 7/8, you can always buy one of these adapters here. It will convert your shaft from 3/4 inch to 1 inch. And this one here that I have will convert it from 7/8 to 1 inch. You can just look these up on eBay or Amazon. They're usually very available. They can run you anywhere between $20 to $40, $50. It all depends where you're getting it from and the shipping. And this is the exact same engine that I'll be putting into this snowblower. As you've noticed, I've got the exact same pulleys and shafts on this engine. Now before I reinstall the engine bolts, I like to put a bit of Loctite on them. There's so much vibrations on snowblower engines. It doesn't hurt to use a bit of Loctite. Now line up the engine holes to the holes on the frame. I'm going to reach underneath and start at least one bolt here. Now I'm going to get that one bolt started with my ratchet. I'm going to get it in deep enough. And after that, I'm going to put the snowblower upright. It's going to be a lot easier. And now with the one bolt in, I've got it upright. I can reach in, line it up again, and put more bolts in. Now I'll tighten it up a bit with my impact. And after they're all in, I'll tighten them up with the ratchet. And now there's 2 more bolts to put in. And I'm going to tighten up these bolts with my ratchet. And I don't have the torque specs, but just use common sense, put them fairly tight. And tighten them up in a diagonal pattern. It'll just make sure that the engine is nice and flush on the body. Now while you have this apart, it's a good time to grease the parts in here. I put a nice thin film of lithium grease on the shaft for the drive wheel here. Don't put too much of this grease here because it could go on the drive disc. If that happens, your transmission will slip. And you can also put a bit of wheel bearing grease on the gears here. Again, you don't need too much grease. So now once everything is cleaned and greased, you want to make sure that the belts are in the proper position. You want to just push them up a bit and make sure you can reach them on the other side before you put the belly pan back on. And what you can do is wipe the disc here with a rag and straight gas. You can also wipe the rubber part here quickly as well. This will ensure that your transmission does not slip. And now reinstall the pan. You want to get the lips here in the grooves over here. I'm going to start all the bolts with my impact. And I'm just going to snug them up a bit more with my ratchet. Again, it's a 3/8 socket. I'm just spraying a bit of degreaser here just to wipe off the oil. Now at this point you want to get the belts back onto the pulleys. I'm going to get the auger belts on first here. And before I get them on the pulley, I'm just going to remove the spark plug boot for safety purposes. So now I'm going to hold the belt like this while I turn the engine over. And now get the drive belt around this pulley here. Now what you want to do is get this belt in front of the pulley on this side. And now if you spin the engine over, it's going to turn, and that's what you want. Now you can reconnect the spark plug boot, and you can reinstall the belt cover, and then reinstall the 2 3/8 bolts that go on each side of the belt cover. So at this point here, I've got fuel in it. I also reconnected the headlight wire, and it's right under here. I had to do a bit of modifications here, but I kept the same plug, and it's all tie wrapped onto the handlebars. And at this point, it's time to start it up and see how this engine runs. It did run when I pulled it out of a scrapped snowblower, so there shouldn't be too many issues with it. If you do start any equipment in your shop, make sure it's well ventilated. Choke, primer. So I'm pretty happy with it. It runs quite well actually. And this Tecumseh engine also idles properly. A lot of them don't. And you saw me here with my tach, and I basically set it between 3200 and 3300 RPMs. I like to keep it within that range. I see a lot less blown up engines if they're kept within that range of RPMs. And also the screw that you saw me adjusting through here is the idle screw. It's the small screw on the carb with the spring. It does not adjust the air or fuel mixture. All it adjusts is the idle. If you want it to idle faster, turn it in. If you want it to idle slower, turn it out. As you saw in the video, guys, it's not that complicated to replace an engine in a snowblower. However, if you do have a friend or somebody to help you, it's going to make it a lot easier to do this job. Remember to always work safe. Disconnect the spark plug boot before you remove the engine. Remove any fuel if you have to do so. And also make sure if you start any piece of equipment in your garage that it's well ventilated. So thanks again for watching, guys. Also make sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And that's also where I announce contest winners and giveaways each month from discountonlineparts.com. And have yourselves a great day.